Well, hello, 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 everybody. It is 9:45 and 30 seconds on the AM dial, and you know what that means. It's time for your weekly dose of Java with Jen, Java with Jen, Java with Jen, Java with Jen. Now, lately I've been drinking mushroom coffee. Can I still call it Java with Jen? I think saying shroom with Jen is a little bit weird, isn't it? Yes. So I am curious though. Has anyone else tried mushroom coffee? There's one brand, and I don't get paid for this. Rise. I really like because it has MCT oil and some coconut milk powder, so it doesn't taste like I'm licking my backyard. I'm just saying. And all of us can use to probably cut down on the caffeine. Anyway, for those that haven't met me, no, I'm not a brand ambassador for Rise Mushroom Coffee. My name's Jen Koken, and I am your favorite executive leadership coach here to help you lead with more authority, influence, and impact. I come to you live every Wednesday, 9:45 on the AM dial, East Coast time, that is, either by myself or with a guest expert to give you more tools for your tool belt, your leadership tool belt. And shameless plug, boop, 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 please buy a copy of my book, Make Imposter Syndrome Your Superpower, the ultimate guide for women in STEM to lead with more authority, influence, and impact. And this whole month, we are going to be focusing on what is authority? What is it to lead authentically? And I'm calling this month where we're going to be unearthing your authentic power. Last week, we had M. Shannon Hernandez, the founder of the Joyful Business Revolution, the author of a book about finding joy in your business. She is the queen of organic marketing. And we talked about how to find your flavor of authentic joy. So I want to reiterate something we said last week in case you didn't tune in. Some people could still be off for, the holidays or just not have had a chance to tune in. I want to go back to what this word authentic means to me, the way that I look at it, because I just feel like so many people have been talking about authenticity, what it is. And if you Google it, you're going to find a gazillion definitions of authenticity. I really feel like whatever is authenticity for you is specific to you. The root word of authenticity, the root word of authority, which is why I have that word in my book title, is AUTH. That is the Greek word for self. So when we're talking about unearthing your authentic power, and that is the whole theme this month, by the by, I'll be ending the month with an empowering expert series, kicking off the year with that. And I will be delivering my signature keynote that I've delivered to 1,000 people, deliver it all the time, called Make Imposter Syndrome Your Superpower, because I want to make sure that as you're unearthing your authentic power, you have a way to powerfully deal with the internal voice. You know the one I'm talking about, the one that just said, "What you talking about?" You know what I'm talking about. The one where you feel guilty about things and you feel needy about things and you question and doubt yourself. Don't tell me you never do that, because I do that. Everybody does it. It's called being human, as far as I can tell. So everybody grab your coffee, hoping to get you out of here into your next meeting in the next, 15 minutes or so. Now 10 minutes. I'm just looking at the time. So the title of this particular episode is What's Holding You Back? Unearthing Your Authentic Power. Have you ever had any of these thoughts? And I wrote some down. I'm not ready for that leadership role. Or maybe I can't say that. It seems arrogant. I can't say that. I'm going to be too pushy. Have you ever been told you're too much? Have you ever been told, as I have, that you just need to make yourself smaller when you enter the room? That's what you have to do. I say baloney to all those things. All those things that either other people have said to you or you're saying to yourself are a limiting belief. Truth is, they're not facts. They are stories, and all suffering lies in the stories we tell ourselves. So there's a limiting belief. Let's talk about what a belief is. And by the way, I see all these in the women I work with and many, many other limiting beliefs as well. These beliefs have such a negative impact on us. They keep us from speaking up. They keep us from going for the promotion. They keep us from asking for what we want. They keep us from giving feedback to either our boss or to the people that we are managing and hope it'll just work itself out. So many ways that limiting beliefs hold us back because let's just face it, the very nature of that name, limiting beliefs, is they limit us to a particular viewpoint or framework. So today I'm going to give you one of the most powerful tools I give my clients so that you can not only identify those limiting beliefs or those beliefs that are holding you back, because you have empowering beliefs too, by the way, and those are also limiting. But that's a whole other episode. So we're just going to talk about those negative limiting beliefs today. I want to be able to give you a tool at the end, actually two tools, so you can add these tools to your tool belt. I think I'm saying the word tool too much. Tool. And have more power moving forward, especially, it's a new year, it's a new you, it's a new opportunity, right? And that gets bandied about a lot. The truth is you have a new day every day. And if we had the ability and the practices and the strategies and the tools to rewrite each day, wouldn't we? Well, I'm here to tell you, you do. And if you don't think you do, by the end of this next 10 minutes, you will. All right. So let's talk about what a limiting belief is. As I said earlier, we want to get into what is authentic for us. And the root word of authenticity, the root word of authority, the root word of author, AUTH, is the Greek word for self. I might have said that just a few minutes ago. Maybe I need to have more coffee. Maybe I didn't say it a few minutes ago, but it bears repeating. So if that's the Greek word meaning self, think about it. When you're authentic to yourself, you naturally exude authority. When you've done the digging, when you've done the work to figure out what's important to you, what makes me tick, because all too often those limiting beliefs we have are not our voice, it's someone else's or society's. And we tend to believe they are true. See, a belief is a habit of the mind. So it's a thought you had in a moment that you continue to have over time that creates a neuronal pathway that ingrains that thought from habit of continuing to think it's true so that all of a sudden it becomes a belief. And a belief, you don't need evidence for a belief. If you believe in God, if you believe in a higher power, do we need evidence? No, we go by our own internal guidance system or through our religious practices or through our spiritual practices. So a belief doesn't need evidence. The problem with limiting beliefs is they limit us. And when we see those or hear those thoughts, those limiting thoughts, AKA imposter phenomenon, imposter syndrome, in our heads, and we've heard them for so long, we begin to think they're true. However, truth equals fact. Truth equals fact. Belief is just that. It's a belief. It's the way we feel about something. It could be our faith, and that's all great. But to be able to have power in those moments where where you feel powerless or you feel like you can't express yourself boldly or you are questioning and doubting yourself, you want to have power in those moments. So you want to deal with facts. Facts give us power. Now, I'm not saying faith doesn't give us power at all. It gives me a lot of power. But in this case, when you're in a real world situation, you're in a meeting and you want to introduce that idea and you've been thinking about it and you don't find the gumption to do it, or you're stepping into the board meeting and you want to figure out, how can I engage the board? But they also hired me for my leadership. See, I don't need to engage the board in everything. They hired you because you're an expert. They're looking for your leadership. Okay. So over time, those thoughts, those habits of your mind become beliefs, and those messages turn into limiting beliefs like, I need to work twice as hard to prove myself. I don't think I'm ready to lead. I don't think I'm ready to take on that project. If I advocate for myself, people will think I'm difficult. If I speak up for myself, people will think I'm aggressive. And those beliefs become real by the by because we keep having the same thought over and over and over, and they are reinforced by the environments we travel in, whether it's at work or by our family or society, and particularly outdated societal norms or male dominated industries, boardrooms, etc. These are not your beliefs. I mean, these are not true, right? And you've borrowed them from someone, or at some point in time, you can give them back. So I'm going to give you a way to give them back. But first, I need some water. This message brought to you by Agua. So to tell you a belief I carried around for a long time, I was always taller than every other kid. I was very outgoing, gregarious, consistently on my report card. Jennifer's a great student, but she's got to pay attention to her own work and stop being helpful. And she shouldn't talk so much in the classroom. I know there's probably plenty of other people that got that too. As an adult, coming into my own, when I, in particular, this started when I was in graduate school, because I was in a program that was all men and me. It was in political campaign management. And back then, you didn't have a lot of women as campaign managers at the top. They were in finance, they might have been in some other role or events, but they weren't at the top. And I knew I wanted to be at the top. Okay. So over time, those comments to me by teachers or by family that, hey, you need to tone it back, became ingrained. They became a belief that I was too much, that I was too loud. Um, and when I was in graduate school, I would hold back my ideas. I would I could sit in a room with my male colleagues and hear them arguing about some point, and I could see the path forward. I could understand in this particular campaign that we were studying how to move forward. But I, believe it or not, was shy. I was timid. I don't know if you would call me shy or timid, but I wasn't confident in my own voice, which caused me to hold back. And that wasn't all the time. It was in certain situations. And you might find that for yourself as well, that these beliefs that I talked about, am I ready to lead? Can I say that? Am I going to be seen as too much? If I advocate for myself, will people think I'm difficult? That may be situational or circumstantial. It usually is. Take note of those things. All right. So there I was in graduate school wanting to speak up, but thinking they would think the same way, that I was too much, that I should just sit back and listen. A lot of the peers that I was in graduate school with, I had gone right on from undergrad to grad. Many of the men in that program had been working on campaigns already. And in my mind, they were like here, they had more authority than I did. But truth is, even when you're new to a company or a situation or a leadership position, your fresh perspective makes a difference. Okay. So I digress a little bit, but going back to that story, I was a little held back. And in my head, I knew I wanted to say something, though. The great part was I had an advocate, which was one of my colleagues who would routinely, he would notice that I wasn't speaking as much. And he was a very kind gentleman, say, Jen, what do you think? And when I would speak up, heads would start to nod. So one piece of these limiting beliefs is being able to identify a colleague or an advocate that will support you. Now, if I hadn't had Scott in those meetings, in that moment, I didn't have the tools to reframe that thought of, if I speak up, I'll be seen as too much. I wish I had the tool I'm about to give you. So I'm going to give you a tool, because eventually I could see my words added value and people started looking to me for my leadership. And my master's program, I led my first political campaign at the age of 21. So I began to see myself as the leader as I gave myself space to speak up, because I had Scott. But what if I didn't have Scott there? This is where this tool comes in. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. Let's see. I don't necessarily know how to. So guess what? I'm just going to tell you about it. I have this framework I use with my clients called the power code. And I say you want to crack the power code of personal responsibility. Because in those moments where we allow our beliefs to rule the day instead of taking agency over our own ability to respond, we are selling out to some societal belief that isn't ours, some thought pattern, brain pattern, critique of ourselves based on outdated societal norms, or based on thoughts we had when we were very, very young. So in those moments when you're held back, on one hand, you could say it's imposter phenomenon, right? You feel like an imposter because you know you want to speak and you haven't. You're doubting yourself. Others tell you you should go for the leadership role and you haven't. It's also honestly an amygdala hijack. So your amygdala is that part of your brain that runs fight, flight, or freeze or fawn. And when those limiting beliefs come into play, it is like this moment where you feel completely disempowered to do anything different. So here's what I want you to do. Next time you notice one of those limiting beliefs, even if you're sitting in a meeting where you find you're not speaking up, number one, I just want you to write down really quickly the circumstances in a meeting with my colleagues, in a meeting with my boss, preparing to present to the board, preparing to give a keynote, whatever it is. And then I want you to write out, just make some quick notes, the thoughts you're having and notice any feelings or body sensations you have too. Write all that stuff down so you can come back to it because you can't really sit and write in the middle of a meeting. If you're not in the middle of something, still write all that stuff out. And here's what's key. POWER is an acronym because the first thing you want to do is you want to pursue the facts and own the stories. Your stories are your limiting beliefs. All suffering lies in our stories. Another way to say that is pursue the facts and own your feelings. So when you feel disempowered, when you notice that limiting belief holding you back, write it out. Oh, I can't do this. Everybody tells me I'm too much. I'm afraid I'm going to take, the spotlight away from somebody else. I want people to like me. That was always a big one for me. Huge people pleaser. Want people to like me. I don't want to upset anybody. Write it all out. And then what I want you to do once you have written out the whole story behind this limiting belief, just go back and circle the facts. Facts are tangible. Facts are like my coffee mug today. I can't say what it says because it has a swear word on it. But I had my Sam I Am mug that I had last week, but I don't. So facts are tangible. Who, what, where, and when. I promise you, when you write out that story of your limiting belief and you then circle the facts, you will find very few. When we're able to separate fact from feeling, we are present. When we're present, we have presence. Presence of what? Mind, body, soul, and spirit. You don't believe in God, it's fine. Spirit, God, Bob, your dog, the goddess, universe, whatever that still small voice is. Whatever that piece is, where I just want to listen to my gut instinct, fine. So when we're present, we have presence of mind to think clearly, presence of body to embody the kind of leader we want to be, presence of soul to speak our truth, and presence of spirit to listen to our gut. So when you separate fact from feeling, you're present. When you're present, you can choose. You can dial up to that 50,000-foot view from a metacognition, from a witnessing perspective, to witness the limiting belief as itself. When you separate fact from feeling, you start to question the beliefs you've held for so long, and you start to see how they've been limiting you. If they're empowering you, great. You don't need to get rid of that one. But limits, right? We want to be able to lift the blinders off, right? We want to be able to open our viewpoint, open our open the opportunities that we see. So the power code: pursue your facts, own your stories or your feelings. W, witness, dial out and witness the beliefs as a belief. And in that moment, when you're present, you can embrace a new choice. It's always the $1 million question. How do you want to show up right now? How do you want to show up in this moment where you can see that belief is holding you back? I want to be bold. I want to be direct. I want to be kind. I want to make a difference, whatever it is. And the R for power code is rinse and repeat. I promise you, and this is lifelong mastery, by the way. We're almost out of time here. It's lifelong mastery. I promise you, if you practice the power code, you will start to see the time between you notice you're doubting yourself and actually taking the action that you want to take, growing smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And you will find yourself feeling more and more and more confident. AKA having more authority, AKA having having more authenticity because you feel like you're being true to yourself and not selling yourself out. I'm going to put a link for you to get the power code in the comments once the broadcast is done because I'm not good at, watching the comments and doing that kind of a thing, so I'll do it afterwards. The so number 1, understand a belief is a habit of the mind. Number 2, use the power code framework to identify those places you are limiting yourself and crack it. Give yourself the ability, crack the power code, give yourself the ability to respond in a way that's authentic, true, confident, and strong for you. Now, the other thing that I want you to do is, or I'll make available in the comments, if you want to get some more insights into your own flavor of imposter syndrome, I have something I call the imposter syndrome leadership decoder. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. That will it's like 3 minutes, answer a bunch of questions. You're going to get a specific report for you, and you can also set up a 20-minute strategy call with me if you want to do that. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I so appreciate you. Please share it with anybody you think would benefit from today's Java with Jen. I hope you're leaving with some clarity, some inspiration, and you can start breaking free from those limiting beliefs. Next week, we're going to dive into how societal expectations shape our stories and how to reclaim what's truly ours. I'll see you right here next week at 9:45 a.m. And remember, your authentic power is already within you. It's inside.